Welcome to the first part of this entire character design series. This first part we're going to actually look at modeling our character from the concept phase, using some concept art as some guidelines, doing the layout of the image files to actually guide us in our modeling process, and then each section is going to break down the following stages of the process, from the actual modeling to the unwrapping of the character to painting of the textures in Photoshop to the rigging of the character, and then through some basic animations that can be applied as like a game character, and then from there we could, if we wanted to, we could go and look at how to get it into various game engines. But for right now, my plan is to just take us to the animation stage of the character. So this first part, we're going to look at designing a character using some concept art. And the first thing that I'm going to do, we're going to go to utilities. And with our utilities, the very first option we have here is the asset browser, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and by default it's going to begin pointing in the Max directory under the C drive, and I've already made me a favorites, and these are the images that you can download to accompany this tutorial. Concept art for this character is nothing special. I just wanted something really kind of cartoony that should be relatively excuse me, easy and straightforward to model without a lot of muscular detail. Even things like this will probably, not be in the final model, but who knows. The point is just to kind of get the overall process taken care of. And we have this for a real quick kind of generic layout for the model. In the industry, you're going to be given very specific looks. This is the point of this tutorial and this series is to just show you how to go about approaching doing these concepts. It's by no way, shape, or form is it meant to be, this is the only way to do this is the only way to do the model, this is the only way to texture. This is just a very quick overview of each stage in the process. The first thing that I'm going to do before we get into this at all is I want to set Max up to actually work for us a little bit. So I'm going to go up to our Customize menu, and I'm going to go to Customize User Interface. Okay, there's a couple of things I know that I'm going to be doing frequently. One is going to be cutting edges, or cutting in edges onto our mesh, removing edges and vertices, and snapping to the edge constraints. So to begin with, I'm going to just click anywhere in here and type in letters. So like type in E, immediately goes to the edge constraint toggle. And as you can see, by default it is the hotkey is Shift X. So you don't have to do anything to turn that on, just hit Shift X and it's going to work. But notice I've also went ahead and added Y for mine, so I can just hit Y. I like one key constraints a lot better. So we're going to leave that one there. The next one, like I said, is going to be using the cut tool. So I'm going to just type in CU, and we'll scroll down a little bit, and you see here we have cut poly. And you see Alt C was the hotkey for it, but I went ahead and set it to X as well. So I can activate my cut tool by just hitting the X on my keyboard. And the other thing is remove, so click anywhere and type in ERE and scroll down a little bit, and remove poly, you see I've set to be A. And if we wanted to do this, all we'd have to do is come over here. For like example right here, if I wanted to assign A to this, I click on Remove Poly, come up to the hotkey and hit A, and A is probably going to be assigned to something else. I forget what it is by default. Since I've already overwritten it, it's been erased. So all you got to do is just hit assign, and it's going to set it there. Like I said, I forget what it was by default. But these are three things that we're going to use a lot, so I wanted to go ahead and get those set in. And just so you know how to do it yourself. Okay, so now we'll just hit save. And it doesn't just let it save wherever it wants to save by default. As you see, it wants to save it to the UI. Max Start UI, just save and overwrite it, and that's fine. Okay, so let's move on to the layout, creating the layout of our modeling template. So I'm going to go and hit the F key, or hold V, and go to the front view, or get it here, view, front. I'm just going to hit F, get there at the same time, and we're going to create our plane, and we'll create this. And if you follow along with any of my other tutorials, this stage of the game should be pretty straightforward to you at this point. It should be anything new. So we're going to put a bitmap, and we're going to go to where our images are going to be, character modeling, and we want the layout. Apply and show, and we want to view the image, and we see that it's the width 370, so we can go ahead and set the width of our plane to 370, and 368 I think was the other one. Let's see, yeah, height 368. Okay, so we got 370, 368, and I'm just going to crank up the self-illumination so that it's really bright for us, easy to see. Okay, I don't want to see it on the back, so I'm going to select on the object, right click, go to properties, and I'm going to check back face cull, so now we can't see it on the back side. Alright, so now we have one, so I'm going to go ahead and call this front. We don't need, hit F4 so we can see our segments. We don't need this many, so I'm going to right click on our spinner to set those back to 1, or you can just type in 1, and right click, and you're going to convert to editable poly. Now we're going to apply the UVW mapping modifier, and we're going to just leave it there for now because we are now going to have to make some copies because we have our front, now we need our side. So using the rotate tool, holding shift, and I'm going to turn on my angle snap toggle so that when I rotate it, I can rotate it 90 degrees exactly. Alrighty, so now we're going to go into our editable poly. Editable poly, turn our show end result on, and then we go into edge. And I select on this edge right here, go to our move tool, and pull this back. Get out of sub object. So the only thing we're looking at is this side. Go to hierarchy. Click Effect Pivot Only, Center to Object, turn off Effect Pivot Only, and we can now move this up like so. Okay, so now we do basically the same thing here so that we can just look at the front view. So editable poly, turn show end result on, go into edge mode. This time we'll pull this edge in right about there, and I guess we could pull that one in too if we wanted to. right down the middle, like that. Looks pretty good. Get out of sub-object mode, go to hierarchy, effect pivot only, center to object, turn off effect pivot only, and now we can move this so that it falls. We go to our front view, so we can see I want to move this just like that, so that it falls right on the middle axis line like that. So there we go. We have our template set up, ready to roll. Again, we are going to go into our layer manager. Going to select both of these guys, right click, object properties. We're going to turn off show frozen in gray, hit OK. Now we're going to create a new layer, and we'll call this refs. Hit enter. We see we have our fronts, and let's call this side. We can hide them, but this time we're just going to freeze them. Okay, so we are now set up, ready to roll to model this guy. We're going to go ahead and stop there. Try to keep these in short segments. So we'll see you in the next part where we actually start the modeling process. Actually, before we leave looking at this, there is one more thing that I want to do. I want to, because looking at where my center grid is, I actually want him to be up here. This is the way that I like it. But I'm actually going to scale him down a little bit and then move him up so that he would be standing on our grid. This is just one of the things that I do. You don't have to do it, but it's just one of the things that I prefer to do. Now I'm going to move this back to the center like so. And it really doesn't need to be perfect. Matter of fact, pushing it back a little bit that way is going to be helpful, and you'll see why in a little while. That's good enough. Okay, now I can freeze, and now we're ready to roll with our model. So we'll see you in a second on the next video.